Wait, my phone is ringing, Chris, just a moment. Come on. A consultation from one of our followers. Hello?
I'm Javi, I'm into sprint and cotalento, and in the first sprint I did, which was uphill, I had a clack in the right hamstring. Now I can barely walk. So at first I managed to finish the sequences, but as soon as I finished the exercise and cooled down, that's right, it was already hurting during the exercise, but it was bearable. The thing is, now it's unbearable. I would like to know some exercises or something to do, or some kind of way to touch it and so on to help this improve. Thank you very much.
That's an interesting consultation guide you're mentioning, because it's an ailment that happens quite often and we deal with it a lot in the clinic. First, I'm going to explain the hamstring. The hamstring is the back part of the leg and is made up of 3 muscle bellies. One is the biceps femoris, which is the one that goes more on the outside in this area here. Another one, the semitendinosus, which goes here towards the inner area. And another one, the semimembranosus, which is more internal still. The main injuries occur 90% of the time. Injuries occur in the biceps femoris and the semitendinosus, let's say in the center and at the mid-level of the hamstring. How does it happen? How does a tear feel? A tear feels like a strong pull or a chop.
And with my axe?
Many times you can even feel the tears. People say it makes a clicking sound when it tears. Hamstring injury, typical in soccer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It can tear for several reasons. Overloading, training that for a long time, and often straining the hamstring. Suddenly you sprint and it tears, that you haven't adapted properly to the exercise. That is to say, if you're not used to sprinting, like in your case, and you've been doing several repetitions, your muscles aren't adapted, and it can tear. And third, the lack of flexibility and mobility, which is important, because proper stretching and muscle contraction is essential in these cases. How will you notice the tear? First, if you palpate, you can feel that right in the area of the tear. There's a discontinuity, like a bump. And then 24 to 48 hours later, swelling usually appears, because the tear bleeds internally and you can feel that the swelling comes out beneath the tear. Let's say the tear happened here in the semitendinosus, then all of this area will become swollen. Even further down, the swelling can extend. What are you going to feel at the moment of the tear? A pain. You can even hear it like a stone hitting something. But it's not disabling. Usually it becomes disabling when you cool down. That's why it's very important to prevent it. And when you think you've had a little tear, stop and don't keep doing the sets or sprints. Like you mentioned, at the moment it happened, you were able to keep training, you did more sprints, and surely that's when you were enlarging the size of the little tear you had. It's essential when you experience this type of injury. One thing that's a bit contradictory and that our body asks for is to stretch, but stretching can cause the tear to be bigger. So when you feel that sharp pain, that pull, don't start stretching. It's important not to do it at that moment, nor in the following days. Afterwards, the following days, when you already have disabling pain, you need to unload the muscles, relax them. You can give gentle massages, not too strong, and avoid touching the area where the tear is, but rather around it, to relax all the muscles so that the fibers don't intertwine. And right where the tear is, it can join more easily. Keep relative rest in terms of activity. You can't keep doing sprints, you can't do high intensity activities, but it's good to engage in normal activities that don't cause pain, like for example walking, going upstairs, just normal life. It's necessary for the muscle to keep working, because if not, the blood gets stagnant and can form fibrosis. Poorly done. The ideal is for the muscle, as much as possible, to keep working, to keep exercising, so that the scar that will form inside develops in the right direction. First guideline mat. It's here now. How do we download it? We're going to download from distal, from the knee upwards, up here. It's that very Spanish way of saying, I'm going to kick the language 4 times and I don't care. There is a protuberance, which is the ischial tuberosity. That's where the ischium inserts. We need to make moderate passes from bottom to top, emphasizing the insertion. And we're also going to emphasize the 3 muscle bellies that I mentioned to you. One external on the outside, one centered, and another internal. If the tear is here, when we get there, we stop applying pressure. We skip that and keep applying pressure higher up. It would be something like this. This can be done by another person. You make an external pass up to the top. Here, hold on a little. Let's go to the center. Here where the kneecap is loose, and I come back. To press all the way up. And now we're going to the internal here. Here, up to the top, the ischial tuberosity goes up to here. We repeat this about 5 or 6 times. 6 sets. When we finish, the ideal thing is to pump here, because the blood is going to flow down. And this is one of the pumps for the lower limb. So here. We pump a little. We do a knee flexion, and at the same time, we pump with our hand. This is when you have help, and someone can manually relieve you. Now we continue with the Rives method, which stands for rest, ice with pressure, and elevation. I'll tell you how. Likewise, if you have a foam roller, this rigid roller, we can apply pressure. We sit on the roller and start applying pressure from the bottom up. Always in this direction, from bottom to top with the roller. Now, I'm going to explain to you the cold wrap, which is very interesting when there's a kneecap issue. We're going to move Christina to a chair. It's the cocktail hat. The cold wrap is a very simple thing. We're going to use a typical slightly elastic bandage and a cold gel. What do we have to do? We're going to apply the cold gel all over. The muscles that are affected, which in this case is the hamstring, and with the bandage that we previously soaked is nice and cool. We're going to use the previously soaked bandage to apply a medium compression from the bottom upward. We don't need to apply a very strong tension from the elastic. It needs to be medium. So, we're going to bring it together. The compressive effect of the bandage and the cold effect of the gel that we have underneath and the bandage that is wet. With that, we're going to achieve a 2-for-1, which has a synergistic effect and is going to help a lot to drain the area. Here we hook it at the end. And there, once it's on, the cold bandage, we're going to lie down with our legs elevated. And this way, we'll help the leg drain even more. In this important position, when we have a tibial twist injury, the legs are slightly bent so that the quadriceps don't get stretched. And we hold this position for about 20 minutes to ensure that the leg continues to flow and drain. We're going to hold this position for about 20 minutes to help the leg drain and absorb all the blood that has leaked from that rupture. It's important to keep the knee slightly bent to avoid straining and stretching the hamstring. A week after the injury, remember, that we've been living normally, doing all the activities that don't cause sharp pain. And we're going to start doing specific hamstring exercises. The first exercise, isometric. We're going to do isometric exercises to work the muscle a little without moving it. With the leg straight, what we're going to do is push down with the heel. And we hold for 5 seconds. The contraction, pull down, Christina. There, we will see that the 4D also works. 3, 4, relax. You repeat 5 times. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, relax. We need to feel that the glute and the back of the leg are contracting. 3, relax. Again, 2, 3, 4, relax. And again, 2, 3, 4, relax. This is the most basic exercise and the start of the rehabilitation exercises. Now we move on to 1. That's a bit tougher. Similarly, we imitate the previous one and isometric without moving, but we're going to push the heel down. This is going to engage the tibial muscle more. If there's pain, you need to hold off for later. Here, push the heel down as if you were going to hit the heel to your glute. There it goes. Feel it contracting. Hold for 5, 2, 3, 4. Relax. Where do you feel it? The tension. That's it. Again. D. Body. Relax. Exactly. With this exercise, one of the main muscles that contracts is the semitendinosus, the one that usually tears. 4, 5, 4, 3, 4. Relax. And again, 1, 2. Pantabon. 3, 4. Relax. Okay. Let's move on to the third one. Face down. This exercise is going to work in a dynamic way. The muscle, how are we going to do it? We're just going to lift the leg to 90 degrees, a little more, but I don't want you to force it all the way up, because the last degree is where the fibers intertwine the most and can cause the most trouble. So, Christina, lift it up. There. A little less, you need to stay here and back. Slowly, always very controlled. No? On the way there and back. Up. Very good there. Enough, down. As you start getting in shape, you can add some resistance with a resistance band or a small weight. For example, with a resistance band, it would be like this. Up. There. We can feel the resistance and we lower it slowly. This resistance band is very big. There are smaller ones. The last exercise. We lie down on our backs with both feet flat on the ground. Hands on your chest, and we're going to do the bridge. Lifting the hips up. At first, hold for 2 seconds at the top, then lower. And we repeat this exercise, 10, 12 repetitions. At the beginning of the rehabilitation, we start by putting the whole foot down. As we improve, we'll first lift the toes again. There you will feel that it puts more strain on the hamstring. And in the final phase of the rehabilitation, we'll do it on one leg. In this case, the right one, which is the one that has theoretically been injured. Our patient here, this spiral to toes up and we lift, and this is the last phase. There. It's working a lot more. Hamstring, tibial, and glute. These are the 4 basic exercises to start the rehabilitation of your important hamstring. For tears, don't stretch. When you feel a tear, avoid stretching because you'll make the tear worse. Second, the tear. There are different levels depending on the size. It won't take the same time to recover from a 1 centimeter tear as it would from a tear of 5, 8, or 10 centimeters. So, we need to have a recovery time that is relative to the injury we've had. Third, the first week or the first 2 weeks, we need to live normally, but not push the muscles. It's important. We need to get back to activity to sports activity. When we are fully recovered, we shouldn't rush the timing. If it takes us 2 months, 3 months, the necessary time. And it's important to start the rehabilitation exercises once the scar has formed, which is usually around 4 to 2 weeks. Well, Diana, I hope I was able to help you with your kneecap, that you recover quickly, that you follow our advice and leave us alone. And all the viewers, feel free to leave your questions, issues, and anything you want us to address with your physio. Always keep moving. Always on the run.